All right, first of all, I want to let you guys know how excited I am about the opportunity. I'm entering my third season here. Obviously, my first running the offensive charge, and very appreciative of Coach giving me this opportunity. Alabama has proven to be a special place for me to coach. The opportunity to learn and work under Coach Saban is something that you just can't replicate, which is one of the reasons I came here. We got a core group of players returning on the offensive side of the ball. Up front, we got 4 returning starters, and we have a few guys that have played some significant minutes for us. Our tight ends and wide receivers are young, but as we saw last year, they do have talent, and I'm excited about seeing their development and their continued growth. The running back group, to me, probably is the strength of our offensive unit. We feel we got 4 guys that are very capable. Obviously, Damian returning for his senior year was huge for us, having him return along with the 3 other guys that we have. And then, obviously the quarterback situation. We feel like we've got a great quarterback room, and obviously, Coach has said it. We feel like we got 2 really talented guys in Tua and Jalen, and we're just excited about getting out there and getting through camp to see how this thing plays out. Obviously, Coach will make that decision, based on how things work out. So for us, it's really nothing to talk about in terms of that competition until it's final. And then last but not least, this is our first day, obviously our second day of practice today. So, there's not a lot to report other than I'm excited about the attitude and the way our players return. Coach Cochran and his group have done a great job of getting these guys in great shape based on what we saw yesterday. But, I caution you, we still have a lot of work to do as we proceed and move toward our opener in Orlando. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Mike, we'll start in the back with Cecil, back right.
Hey, Coach. Cecil Hurt from Tuscaloosa News. Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
Could you explain for me, because I'm a little slow, exactly how hands-on you are with the quarterbacks, how hands-on Coach Enos is with the quarterbacks, exactly what the breakdown of work is that then goes into the evaluation process?
Well, obviously the evaluation, as with anything, it starts with Coach. But the way the thing works for me, obviously being the offensive coordinator, most of the install stuff that goes in, I install the offense, and then we break up into specific position groups. I have the ability and have spent quite a bit of time, obviously, in the quarterback room. But the best part about how Coach has done this, and it's a model that's worked in the NFL with the coordinator, it also gives me an opportunity to move to other position rooms and help where needed. As I evaluate things offensively, wherever I see there needs to be some things corrected or fixed, I get an opportunity to go in those rooms and fix it with the coaches. So Dan and I have worked really well together. I spend quite a bit of time in the quarterback room. Dan obviously leads the charge in terms of their skill development, just like every other position group guy does. And it's worked fine thus far. I'm really excited about it.
Okay, we'll come right here with Charlie.
Coach has said that he wants to see the quarterbacks win the team, but what do you want to see from Jalen in terms of taking that next step as a passer in camp?
And not just Jalen, but all these guys. The one thing we talk about with our camp objectives is we want every player to get better with every day. So not just specifically Jalen, but all our players. When that's the object of camp. You come in with a skill level, and it's our job and their job to work to have these guys playing at an optimal level once the season starts, and that's what we're going to try to do during camp.
Right here with John.
Sorry to ask. I had a couple. Sorry to ask another quarterback question, but what have you liked from those guys, whether it's development on the field or just their attitude, because it's such a high-profile competition?
Well, first and foremost, I think both those guys have been pros in terms of how they've gone about competing. Both those guys put the time in. They both are students of the game. They spend a lot of time upstairs in the coaches' offices trying to improve themselves. I see those guys working really well with all the different tools we have on the offensive side of the ball. So, for both of those guys, they really are working hard to improve and find ways to get better individually.
And as far as the receivers go, how about often have like a go-to guy and then a really good supporting cast? Is that important to get that one guy, or can you see it spreading around more to a bunch of young, talented receivers?
It's always been, my opinion as an offensive coordinator and when developing an offensive system is that you want to identify who all your playmakers are and you want to find ways to get them all involved. We're a much better team when guys all feel like they have some ability to help. And so for me, we're going to continue to work to identify the guys that make plays for us, and we'll continue to develop schemes and things to get them the ball.
Back over here on the left side with Michael.
You were here when Najee Harris came in, and you've seen him for a year. Where have you seen progress from him? Where do you see him going this year?
The biggest thing with young running backs that tends to be the toughest thing is the pass protection aspect of the position. And I know with Najee, with the intricacies that you see with the blitzes from different teams, and even when we practice against our guys, the one area that I've seen the most improvement is his knowledge and understanding of our pass protection concepts. Obviously, as a runner, when you put the ball in his hands, his natural instincts are above the chart in terms of his ability. He's a physical runner. He got great speed to finish runs, but the biggest area that I've seen Najee improve has been in his pass protection, understanding, and his techniques.
Go over here to Joseph.
Hey, Mike, at what point would you like to see a starter named for quarterback? Do you need a certain amount of time to prepare for a one quarterback situation?
Like I said, the guy that was here before me, he's going to be the guy that makes that decision as to when it happens. For me, once that decision is made, then it'll be my job to try to put together a program or a system or a game plan that'll help us be successful on game day.
We'll come back over here with Dwayne. Sorry. A little slow.
When you look at just the quarterback position, what's your ideal guy? What's the ideal type of quarterback you would like to have?
A guy that wins. Ultimately, that's the job of the quarterback, is to find ways to score points and win ball games. And so for me, that's the most important thing. And, that's something that I think obviously when coach makes that decision, I think that'll be the thing. The decision will be based on who gives us the best chance to win.
We'll go here with Ben in the middle.
There have been plenty of former head coaches and former offensive coordinators on staff here with you in the last 3 years. What have you learned from some of those guys in that time?
Oh, man, it's so many things. It's hard to sit here and that's one of the benefits of going into year 3. I came in under Lane and had a chance to see how things worked there. I had a chance to be here with Brian last season. So, and then all the great coaches that have been around this program the last 2 years that I've been here. So it's hard to really say one or two, three things that I learned from them. I know the biggest thing that I've seen thus far is that, we have a very talented team, and that's what makes it special to coach at a place like Alabama. And I know I'm excited about the opportunity to lead the charge on the offensive side of the ball.
Back middle with Aaron.
What specifically do you like about this wide receiving core? And I know it's early, you may not have seen him on the practice field, but in breaking his film down, what do you like about Jalen Waddle?
Well, that's the tough part. We've had one practice with him. Obviously, we had some opportunities to see him do some things in the summer with our ability to work with our players. With any freshman, our expectation is that he comes in and, defines his role by how he's able to learn, how he's able to pick up things. I know when we recruited Jalen, he had a skill set with tremendous speed, short area quickness, and big playability. I think he'll fit in great with the 3 guys that played a lot for us last year, and Smitty, Judy, and Ruggs. Excited again, like we said, we got a youthful wide receiver group, but a bunch of those guys last year played some significant times and made some big plays and big games for us.
With so many running backs, how do you plan on handling that and getting everyone the ball? Will it be similar to last season, or will there be any changes?
I mean, again, as we go through camp, the goal is to figure out what each guy's role will be, to define who the playmakers are. As I said earlier, I feel like that's the strength of our team. And so if it makes us better, having those guys all involved in the game plan, then that's exactly what we'll do. All 4 of those guys, when I talk about Brian Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, and Damian Harris, are uber talented guys. And so I'd be an idiot to not find ways to get those guys involved in our system, and we'll continue to work to find a way to do that.
Go over here on the left with Reiner.
You seem to have a little bit more of a spread background. Dan has more of maybe a pro-style background. How are you blending that and also taking elements of what you learned or been around with Lane and combining that with the stuff that Brian brought last year?
Well, let's make it pretty clear. You know, this is Alabama's offense. This isn't Mike Locksley's system. And offensive philosophy starts with Coach Saban and what he wants to do. He sets the culture for how the offense is run, what types of things he wants done. And as you see, this offense hasn't changed a lot. Obviously, with Lane coming in and going to some of the no huddle and tempo stuff, it's continued to improve it. I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. Again, the Alabama system has been very successful throughout the time that Coach has been here. Will I add some new things or add wrinkles? I think the biggest difference you see is most play callers put their personality on the offense and how they call it. And so I'm excited again to have that opportunity this year.
Ken Rogers.
Just wanted to ask you about the luxury of having 4 offensive linemen back, and how has Ross looked, moving down to center?
You know, Ross is a really talented guy. We're expecting a tremendous amount of leadership out of him going into this season, and thus far he's provided it. Much like a couple years ago when we moved our guard in the center 2 years ago, Bozeman. We want to get our best player there, the guy that's able to make the calls for us. And with Ross having so much game experience, it was an easy transition for him. He had played some center here at different times throughout his career. I think he's been able, with his experience, to maybe anchor that offensive line and kind of be able to get us all on the same page up front, which is really important.
Last one here with Chris Walsh.
You said that an offensive identity starts with the head coach. How much of it, though, depends on the players and the talent that you have?
Well, no doubt about it. That's, my job and our job as an offensive staff is to figure out who your playmakers are. Obviously, coach sets the culture as far as if we want to be an up-tempo team, if we want to be a run-first team, if we want to throw the ball. The good thing about our offense, it's been really diverse over the years in terms of the pro style, the spread, the tempos, the huddling, running the ball, throwing the ball. All those things have had elements of this offense throughout the course of Coach's tenure. I mean, that won't change. What will change is obviously us figuring out which guys are the playmakers in the system and finding ways to get them involved.
Thanks, Lux.
Thanks.